Vipassana, seeing as it is. One of the most ancient meditative practices which allows a person to overcome the veil of ignorance and see the world and its objects in their true light, as they really are. In the classical version, meditation is performed in a formal practice, in a sitting position or while walking. However, ideally, this practice of observing reality is performed in all possible positions and activities of a person during his waking hours. The key points in the process of conscious observation of ourselves are three qualities of our reality on which in his practice should pay close attention. This is the basis. 1. Anicca, impermanence. All the phenomenological material we observe in the field of our consciousness all the time changes. No phenomenon can remain anyhow constant. Impermanence and variability are the main characteristics inherent in our perception and its objects. For example, the body is actually just a word that refers to a constantly changing stream of an infinite number of sensations that arise, exist for a while, and are replaced by other sensations that are provided to us by our senses, and the countless receptors that create these sensations. Breathing is also a constantly changing process. We can also analyze our emotional and sensory background, where emotions and feelings alternate and change as they pass through our consciousness based on their intensity, saturation, focus on an object, and so on. Similarly, we can observe this in our minds, which are constantly changing thought forms, ideas, and the plots of our imagination or the objects of our past that resurface in our memory. The factor of impermanence and variability is a fundamental characteristic of our mental and physical reality. 2. In this regard, the second quality that we can observe in our minds is dukkha, which is a certain degree of inner dissatisfaction. This feeling arises and almost always accompanies our lives with varying degrees of intensity due to the same impermanence. We have nothing to rely on in this life. There is no reliable or stable foundation. Everything changes endlessly, and this flow eventually leads us to feel some degree of disappointment. With careful and honest observation of one's own mind, this fact becomes evident. 3. Non-self, non-person, non-I. This is a key aspect that should manifest itself in our observation and understanding during the practice of Vipassana. Ultimately, we realize that nothing in this world has a self-existent existence. Everything is impermanent and interdependent on other causes, things, objects, or conditions. Nothing has its own inherent nature. So, the three qualities are impermanence, dissatisfaction, and no self. We will not delve deeply into the philosophical aspects of Buddhist metaphysics and the concept of emptiness in Buddhism. If desired, one can explore this philosophy on their own or under the guidance of a competent mentor. After a brief but necessary introduction, we will move on to describing the practice itself. Vipassana. Sit with a straight back on a chair or a cushion with your legs crossed. Use your inner eye to observe your body and its position. Release any unnecessary tension and try not to make any movements during the duration of your meditation. Focus on observing the natural process of your breathing. To do this, you can either choose to focus on the movement of your abdominal wall as it rises with each inhale and falls with each exhale, or you can concentrate on the tip of your nose and observe the sensation of air entering and exiting there. Once you have chosen a focal point, remain there, observing your breath and gradually calming your mind. When a phenomenon appears on the screen of your consciousness, you should become aware of its appearance, its presence in your mind, and its disappearance. At the same time, you do not need to think about it, analyze or evaluate it, or comment on it in any way. Your task is simply to observe the phenomenon's appearance, location, and disappearance. If your mind remains empty and calm, you can return to observing your natural breathing process as you did before. The phenomena or objects that arise in your mind can be different. For example, it can be an itch in your back or a pain in your knee, a vibrating sensation in your body, or a sound that you hear from somewhere outside. It can be a sudden thought or a memory, a game of your imagination, or even a mental dialogue with someone you know, a feeling of heat or cold, and so on. We are not interested in the meaning or context of the object that arises, only the very fact of the emergence and awareness of this fact by us, the observation of its dynamics, and letting go of ourselves when the object leaves our mind. Following the emergence of a thought, we have an emotional reaction to this thought. It immediately becomes the object of our meditative practice, etc. Absolutely. Any phenomenon in our consciousness that arises, remains, and leaves our mind at the present moment of time, here and now, is the object of our observation. When the mind remains empty and calm, we return to observing our breath. We should not interfere with or comment on the contents of our minds. We observe the impermanence of our minds, and we observe the process of our mind's life. We do not need to control our minds. We do not need to search for or look out for anything when we practice Vipassana. Our minds can move freely, but our attention moves in parallel with them. We accompany our minds, allowing them freedom, while observing them from a distance. This quality of being in the moment and knowing what is happening in my body, in my mind, and with my breathing makes our lives truly conscious. And it prepares our mind for deeper insights into understanding our psychic reality. We see life, its processes, and objects as they really are, less and less, falling into illusions developed by our mind, with the participation of memory and imagination. Living in the present, we learn to perceive and accept life as it is. After the meditation session, rub your palms, face, knees, and lower back.